So why don't you talk?
Again, nothing would be that, and we might or might not talk. And the rest of that gets in what we do every day.
You think that talks would pick up a little bit with him?
I don't know that necessarily talks will, but we've got a game coming, and he's under contract.
Well, those are the two things that we can confirm from what he just said. They do have a game coming, and he is under contract. Yesterday, reporters approached Micah Parsons, and he simply told them, my mouth is closed. And so when I say, Marcus Spears, that your favorite team is dealing with a war of no words, that is quite literally what I mean. I can tell from the look on your face, you're not enthusiastic about it. What do you expect to happen here, Marcus Spears?
Listen, man, the one thing for me is, right, with this is personal now. Like, listening to that sound, I hadn't seen that before. This is absolutely personal. I know people have been saying that before, but when we get to the point where we start talking about nothing, I don't have nothing to say, he's under contract, be there we got a game coming up. There is one thing that's like in this situation, and David Mulligetta is Micah Parsons' agent. And there is some type of strategy. I don't think it's as simple as him playing in game one with what's going on in this particular situation. And I know what people say, well, he under contract, he's gonna lose a lot of money and do all of these things. But this is kind of fell off of a cliff where now it's a peeing contest. And now people are starting to hold their ground and stand in what they standing in. And for Micah to say my mouth is closed, it's like I'm nonchalant being passive aggressive about this. And Jerry having his word on what he just said to Todd Archer. But it goes back to saying we don't have anything to talk about. We have a deal in place, and Micah's like, no, we don't. There is a lot of non-football energy of dislike going on right now between Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones. And that is probably the worst thing that can happen in this situation.
That's the risk that Jerry Jones runs by consistently negotiating through the public. I think he believes that it's going to be entertaining, it's going to draw some attention, and also it creates pressure on the player. And it depends on the player that you're creating the pressure on. You create pressure on some players, that might pressure them to show up and capitulate. You create pressure on other players, it might encourage them to have the contest that Marcus was talking about. And I think Micah Parsons is the latter. I suggest that Jerry Jones figure this out. And this is the most mind-blowing thing about this for all of us, is that throughout the history of all of this, we know what Micah Parsons is going to get. Yes. He's either going to get it today, or he's going to get it week 1, or maybe it'll be week 3 or 4. He's going to get this contract at some point. Why do we keep dragging it out?
Are we that certain of that? I mean, Jerry Jones, look, you make a billionaire the kind of angry he appears to be, and what he said is an accurate statement. He is under contract for this season. The option of putting the franchise tag on him beyond that exists. Yes. It would be an unpopular and perhaps spiteful move, but it's out there. Where does this go from here?
They've done it before. They did it with Dak Prescott. He played on a franchise tag and was close to doing it again before they got a last-minute deal done. So a war of no words is the right way to put it. There hasn't been conversations. I believe, based on the conversations I've had around this situation, that the Cowboys felt like they had a deal done in March, which Jerry has said, and they feel like if Micah wants to take that deal, then great. We'll be good to go. But if not, then they expect him to show up and play and see where the chips fall. Now, again, I'm not defending their position.
So they no longer...
I'm telling you what it is. And I don't know, Swagoo. Maybe it is personal. Maybe Jerry did get offended that he thought there was a deal done and Micah didn't. But it feels like it's time to get past that. There's any number of roads out of that situation that he just doesn't seem to be willing to take.
There was a deal done, then you should have signed it. You didn't sign it then. Context has changed since then. That to me is an absurd position to stand on.
And there wasn't a deal done. The two of them had a handshake conversation, and the agent wasn't involved, and that doesn't constitute a deal in anyone else's mind. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, this is a synonymous situation with I own the team, I got the money, you do what I say. And I think that's how Micah is taking it. And that's why I think this thing has deteriorated as fast as it possibly can. Look, we all know in the league when we're players that the owner and the league, they have a lot of control because of the franchise tag, how long they can hold you in an organization that you don't want to be in. But every once in a while, there's a player that will come along and say, you know what, I'm not going to capitulate to that. I'm going to go the opposite direction of what usually happens, and we're going to have a battle. Either you're going to pay me what I believe I should be paid, or I won't show up and play. And I think we're teetering in that area as much as it will hurt Micah Parsons' pocket.
I think that's the thing. The Cowboys need to find out now if this is that kind of player. I think they're willing to call his bluff. If he doesn't show up and play week 1 and they give up 45 points to the Eagles, then I think a lot of the leverage shifts toward Micah Parsons in this, and we've seen that in the past with Jerry. We go way back, obviously. We're thinking about Emmitt Smith. But I think at this point, the Cowboys want to see if he's willing to do that, and I don't think they're going to just take his word for it.
I am a firm believer that history in sports tends to repeat itself. I will just call everyone's attention to 1993. Emmitt Smith held out the first 2 games of that season. The Cowboys were struggling. They got a deal done. That season ended with Emmitt Smith as the league MVP and the Cowboys winning their second of back-to-back Super Bowls. That, to me, is the precedent here. If Micah sits out the first game or 2 of the season, and they're playing on the opening Thursday night against the defending Super Bowl champs. If Saquon Barkley runs all over them up and down the field, doesn't that change the narrative for Micah Parsons' case?
Of course it does. And to the point that we've all been making this whole time is this team, I understand that sometimes you want to take a risk negotiating. Not with this guy. Not with this guy. He's like a future Hall of Famer. We all would agree if his career continues on this trajectory, that's where he's headed.
I'm late here, but Graziano, if I were to ask you to assess the chances, I'm asking you to do something you hate to do, and that is guess. Assess the chances that what this all ultimately results in is Micah Parsons playing somewhere else as soon as, let's say, next season.
As soon as 2026.
Following, yes, but meaning nothing gets done right here, and he winds up getting traded, whether it is now or this offseason.
Give Greeny what he wants.
Scale of 1 to 10.
4.
Okay, that's better than I expected. A 4 from Graziano was like a 9 from Greeny, so I love it.
That is
Let's say
like
Sunday night against Buffalo. If he struggles, will you freak out?
I will absolutely freak out. I will tell other people, don't freak out. No big deal. It's just a preseason. But I'm going to freak out because he had a rough start last year. And again, this is the preseason. And the most important thing for Caleb Williams, I think, is to play within structure, do things on time. Preseason, you're not going to see a bunch of complicated game plans. Like you might see some like fire zones is the hardest thing you'll see. If he struggles, now like if he doesn't lead him on a scoring drive, that's fine. But if he struggles at this point, I'd be a little concerned.
Marcus.
Man, Caleb Williams has to play on time with rhythm, and whatever Ben Johnson has in this plan, it needs to be executed at a very high level. This man had 432 dropbacks last year for a rookie. That's going to get anybody in a terrible situation. And it was a tumultuous situation with his offense. We asked on this show about what the hell is Chicago's offensive identity. They made a change at offensive coordinator. We saw him play a little bit better after that during the season. But this is the important part for Caleb Williams. The Chicago Bears committed to Ben Johnson being their head coach. We know what Ben Johnson comes with based on what he did in Detroit. Now he needs to show, to Neek's point, competency, and there needs to be a rhythm and a timing to this offense in order for everybody to kind of relax and see that there's progress being made.
Yeah, progress is the key. And look, they're in a developmental timeline with Caleb Williams. To put that on television is a little bit risky because it might not look great. But it also might be where they need him to be at this point. So I think, at this point, it's very important not to overreact to preseason games. It always is. This might be one of the prime examples of that. Last year in the preseason, remember the crazy stuff he was doing that was so exciting. That was a lot of fun. But that's not what they want him to do, right? Like he needs to run the offense. So
what they want,
I think the best outcome is if it's boring.
Here's the only thing I will say. I get it. You're right. He's in a developmental process. And yes, they did hinder him last year. He's actually starting from behind zero with all of the nonsense that they dealt with last year. That said, we don't live in that world for rookie quarterbacks anymore.
Yeah.
We live in a world where C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels and even Drake May in New England last year, under terrible circumstances, and others step in and look ready to play the position immediately. And so the fact that we're talking about let's be patient with Caleb in year 2 is a different kind of story.
It's just important to remember how much less college football he played than Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and those kinds of comparisons are not going to hold up. So, and again, a lost year seems like developmentally last year as a rookie.
It's important to know that, but it don't matter. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I would love to live I would love to live in that world with you where we all can take into account all the context around the situation. But we don't, and we're not going to. And that team is so obviously built to take advantage of his rookie contract right now. In the first 3 to 4 years before they sign an extension. So I'm with you. But at some point, he's going to have to accelerate this maturation as a quarterback.
Agreed, but I don't think that point is this coming Sunday.
Well, it better be, because I'm a freak out. I'm freaking out.
But Marcus, does it need to be? Go ahead, Marcus.
We've seen this organization flunk all the tests with their quarterbacks up until this point. And this is one situation where now you understand the shift that's happening. We take the onus off of the franchise. Bowles has done a good job, brought Ben Johnson in. This is all about Caleb, and that's why people have this reaction. When it was Mitch Trubisky, when it was Justin Fields, we were like, this is a horrible organization. This is terrible. They don't know what direction they're going, none of that. So now it is a completely different situation for Caleb Williams. I understand the type of pressure. I understand the reaction to Caleb Williams, and if he doesn't play well, because of what structurally has happened in this organization. But ultimately, the dude is about to play like his 18th game in the NFL
Right.
when they start this season for real. So somebody got to say, let's give him a little bit of time.
His opposite number in that game, which will be our first Monday night game of the season at Soldier Field, will be